This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burdened you. Therapy can help you more easily identify what weighs you down or what's holding you back by offering an unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, motivations, and emotions. There's so much that I have to tackle in this new year. Therapy is a great way to help me focus and to keep me from feeling overwhelmed. Now, what I love about BetterHelp is they have quality therapists. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the US. Now, BetterHelp wants to make sure you have a great therapist. So they do the initial matchmaking work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. You fill out a quick questionnaire, it helps you identify your needs and preferences, and they will do the rest. They typically get it right the first time, but if you're not happy with your match for any reason, you can switch to a different therapist at any time. Are you ready to get help? I hope so. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's better, HELP.com/ratchet. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are watching Ratchet and Respectable. Since the last time we spoke, I've been on the road. I just got back from New Orleans last night, and before that, I was in Houston. I've been trying to get to Houston for a minute. There is an exhibition at the Houston Museum of Fine Arts that is traveling from the Louvre. It's a fashion exhibit. It's beautiful. Lots of dresses, of course, ball gowns, and then also the shoes. I love the shoes. Usually, when there's a fashion exhibit, like you walk in and you're just like overwhelmed. Dresses, ball gowns, all of that. This one is a little different, and I like the switch. They took each outfit and placed it in context with the art. Actually, I don't like the way I phrased that. Okay. They put it in context with the other art. So, in addition to, because I think fashion is art, but they put it with paintings and sculptures and other works of art. So, if it's, say, a dress that has like a Greco Roman theme, they would put it with the Greco Roman art. It was really good. It's probably like 36 gowns, which overall doesn't really seem like an abundance. I know when I went to Atlanta to see like Andre Leon Talley, that must have been easily, I don't know, 200, 300 minimum pieces. And actually, I'm thinking of some of the other small pieces that they had is probably closer to five, 600. So I'm used to like an abundance. This one is a smaller exhibition, but it's small and powerful. And it also, because of the way the exhibition is set up, it forces you to walk throughout the entire museum. Because sometimes I'll go to a museum and I'll just go see that one exhibition and then I'll tip on out to something else. But because I had to walk around, it was almost like a scavenger hunt. Like they gave you a little map and it was like, 1 through 38, here's where all the gowns are. It was actually really fun, if that makes sense. But beautiful gowns, but not like in the Aretha Franklin shady way, just literally beautiful couture gowns. And then afterward, I went to this restaurant, Chopping Block. So when I was asking online, I told people I want to take this day trip to Houston, and tons of people were like, "You can't do Houston in a day trip because of the traffic, and then everything's super spread out." Completely understood why they said that. If I tried to do a fourth thing, it totally would not have worked. I was there for 8 hours, but when I mentioned I wanted to visit Houston, everyone and their mom recommended I go to Chopping Block. So did the drinks were great. The ambiance was great. The clientele, lots of Houston got some big fine men. The women in Houston tell me don't get caught up on the looks, but Houston does have some aesthetically pleasing men folk. Texas in general, Dallas probably has the most beautiful men I've ever seen outside of Africa. Because Ghana and Senegal, that's not the point. I'm not evaluating the men. I'm evaluating the food. Um, Maybe I ordered the wrong thing. I got like the jollof rice with vegetables because I don't eat meat. And African restaurants are pretty known for like, meat based. My jollof was dry, y'all. I'm I know it's a beloved restaurant. I had the punch, and the punch was amazing. I had the sorrel and something lemonade. That was wonderful. The water exquisite. Service Food. The cauliflower was nice. I'm searching, y'all. I'm not trying to like drag your beloved restaurant, but I'm sorry, I did not love. I wanted to love this. The food, once my waiter came back and took my order, came very quickly. I mean, like within 2 minutes. So maybe somebody else's food had been sitting out. The food wasn't cold though. It was just dry. My friend's food, she got curry and hers, it looked amazing. It smelled amazing. And maybe I should have got the curry. Next time, I'm not going there again. I Let's move on. And then I went from Houston to New Orleans. My aunt passed away. Along with my parents, they met me down there for her funeral. Really lovely lady. She was in her late 70s. She lived a full life. She had three children, six grandchildren, great grandchild, and still 78. Yo, it's younger than my dad, like it feels young. Even though it's, technically like old, I guess. Obviously, I've known her my whole life, and and my dad had lived in New Orleans when he was young, in his 20s, and I was asking my aunt, and I was like, "Oh, did you know my dad when, he lived here?" And she was like, "Did I know your father?" Of course I knew your father. I knew your father well. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Yeah, my dad, he lived here like after college, right?" And she was like, "Oh, is that what he told you?" And I was like, is that not accurate? And she was like, go get a drink. And she was like, let me tell you about your father when he lived in New Orleans. And she had lots of stories to tell. I came home like, Daddy, you didn't tell me. And he was like, is that what they telling you down there? He didn't deny it. He was like, every story you hear ain't accurate, just so you know. And I was like, I mean, but was this part accurate? And he was like, I mean, it was good to be around family. It's just like me, my mom, and my dad are like clustered here in Maryland. So like being around people who like have your face and your mannerisms is just, it throws me off. I don't spend enough time around my cousins, unfortunately. And I realized when I was in New Orleans, I was like, oh, I'm officially like that cousin, or in some cases, auntie. Because people were like, oh, you was in the country? We didn't expect you to be here. We didn't think we see you. You be in Africa. Like, I'm just like, oh, damn. Like, I've missed significant events in the family, and people don't expect me to show up because I don't be here showing up. And I was like, I feel bad. Like the idea of like rich auntie sounds very fabulous until like your family low key shades you to be like, I mean, oh, you finally showed up. Like your mama and your grandma passed. You thought I was gonna miss it? Well, we didn't know. Oh God. Also, one of my relatives, it came in my comments because I'm referring to my aunt. I don't know what else to call her. That's what I called her my whole life. Is my auntie. She's technically my first cousin. She's my dad's brother's son, so my dad's nephew, which will make him my first cousin, wife. So she's my first cousin by marriage. But I just told you the lady's 78. I'm clearly not close in age to 78. So, like, in what world would I just be calling her, like, hey, I don't even feel comfortable saying, just calling her, like, even here, hypothetically, just calling her by her first name. I've never called her that. But one of my relatives got in the comments and was like, "Oh, I'm confused on the relations." And she's like, "I'll call your father and clear it up." And I was like, "What?" I'm just saying. My auntie passed away, and may she rest in peace. I came back last night, almost missed my flight. I love New Orleans. I'd be big as a damn house if I lived there. I want to go back for Mardi Gras. It happens the week between Marrakesh and Cape Town. So like the 1 week that I'm in the country, like theoretically I could go back down to New Orleans. I want to see the Black Indians. I had a driver and he was giving me like the rundown of like Black Mardi Gras because I told him I'd been before. I stayed in the French Quarter and he was like, "Why would you ever do that?" I was like, it sounded like a good idea at the time. But then he told me like all the stuff to do. I also didn't realize that Mardi Gras was like a full like 5 weeks of events, 5.5, 6 weeks of events. Like I thought Mardi Gras was like a weekend. I didn't realize it was like, a month and change long celebration. Because it's what, January 21st, 22nd now, and they're already celebrating. And I was like, wait. Like we were driving to my cousin's house, and there was like a full parade with like costumes and everything. Since we last spoke, actually, is that true? Because I think I read it before the last episode, but I wanted to hold it because the book wasn't out yet. That's not the point. The point is, I read this really wonderful book. I read it in one sitting. Amy DuBois Barnett. She is editor extraordinaire. I know for certain she used to be at Honey. She's running Team People. She was at Essence. She was at Ebony. And there's probably a bunch of other places as a writer that I'm leaving off the list. Her new book, it comes out January 27th. It's called If I Ruled the World. It's about, I'm not going to give it away, I promise. And like, I know sometimes I say that and then I give it away. I'm not going to do that. It's about a young woman, a journalist living in New York. It's set in the late 90s. So, like, the height of really budgets for magazines, yes, but also for videos and music artists. There was just like a lot of money flowing into hip hop culture, black culture, urban culture, young culture. It was just a really flush time for black people in publishing. And so the book is set in like that very sexy era. That is part of the era that made me want to be a journalist. I had Essence, obviously. Like, I grew up with Essence on the coffee table, like most Black women. Like, my mom remembers the first time she saw Essence on stands. The same way my mom reacted to that Essence is the same way I reacted to Honey. Like, it was just young and fresh, and it was in a voice that I recognized as opposed to, and I love Essence, I'm a former Essence editor, like the respectability that Essence always held, which was not a bad thing. It was just not, it was the aspirational thing. I didn't always want aspiration. Sometimes I didn't want to look up. Sometimes I just wanted to look across. And that's what Honey felt like to me. But that's what made me. And I was like, okay, now I know the kind of writer that I wanted to be. The publication is what drew me to the city, along with Spike Lee movies. But also, like, once I got there, to be a journalist in New York, and I didn't get there till 2000s, and the budgets were starting to blow. Like 2001 decimated everything. But the lifestyle, the parties, the access, like it was before every party was roped off and everything was exclusive. Like you could go to a party and like Usher would just be there, or Chris Brown, or that's before, Jay-Z. Like we go to bed and Jay-Z would be just up there just chilling, like just an after work industry event, and like Hov was there. Idris Elba would just be walking around. Like I think he was still on The Wire at the time. But like the first industry party I ever went to, actually, is that true? No, it's not my first industry. Actually, yes. Okay. The first industry party I ever went to, it was a Mill Wilbekin's. He was the editor in chief of Vibe at the time. This is, again, pre everything that we know about these people now. Diddy walks in, like, to wish Emil a happy birthday. I was just there as like the intern, and I was like, oh my God. And at the time, like Bad Boy ruled the airwaves. Like I watched all the videos at home in the suburbs, and like now I'm in New York and these people are standing right in front of me. Like it was like it was like living a dream. It was insane. It was sexy and sex and power and stunt and money, and it was just a very glitzy, glamorous time. And I've not seen it. I guess I didn't see it. Oh, actually, back up. The book is so visually rich that I felt like I was living in the moment again. Amy, she did her big one with this. I said I was going to read maybe like 50 pages of the book because I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. And I read 50 and I was like, okay, 50 more, and then 50 more. I was already at 150 by then. I flipped to see how many pages to go, guesstimated how long it would take me based on how long it took me for the first 150, and was like, fuck it, I'm just read through the night. And did. And was totally worth it. And would go back and read it again because it felt like I was watching a TV show. So completely amazing. And then I texted Amy in like the middle of the night. I hope she was in LA, so it was just late. It wasn't the middle of the night. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a masterpiece. It reminds me a lot of Bling did a good job with it, with painting that time period too. Bling, Erica Kennedy. The writing is not like Coldest Winter Ever, but if you remember, especially if you read Coldest Winter Ever as a teenager or a young adult, it was a new genre of writing, And it was just something constantly happening. Like Winter just kept making mistakes, and there was just like every chapter ended with like some high point of drama, and you just had to keep turning the pages because like I can't believe she did this. I can't believe she did this. Oh my god, she's so stupid. But you had to keep going because you had to know what was happening next. That's how this book is. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I'm not just saying that because Amy is like, editor extraordinaire, icon in my industry. Like, if the book sucked, I just wouldn't mention it because I don't want to, cause any drama. But it's really, 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 really good. Just read the book. And then some of it seems based on some people. She has like a little, like, at the beginning of the book, this like, any similarity to persons alive or dead is complete coincidence, this blah blah blah, and I was like, some of this sounds familiar. It's so good. I also watched Hijack because you know how I feel about Idris Elba. It was actually pretty slow. It's the first episode of the second season. I had to watch it 2 or 3 times to really get into it because it's like building a new world. Like, he's not on a plane this time, he's on a train. It's a little dry up until, as per last season, the last 2 minutes. In this case, maybe like the last 10 seconds, when you figure out why Idris Elba's on the train, you're like, like, I literally gasped and then had to start the whole thing all over again. And then once I knew what it was building up to, it was a really strong and compelling episode. But when you're just trying to figure out, like, where are they going with this? Like, it sort of leads you in this direction and that's a blank in. It leads you over here, that's a blank in. And there's not a lot of talking. It's a very quiet episode with a lot of just, eye signals and, looks and grimaces and, contemplating. I'm just like, where are we going with this? And then when I found out where they were going, and I was like, oh, it's really, really good. It comes back on Thursday, which is probably when you'll be watching this episode because I'm recording on Wednesday. I'm mad late. I was exhausted when I got back last night. So, um, maybe we could talk about Hijack next week. Maybe. We'll see. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burdened you. Therapy can help you more easily identify what weighs you down or what's holding you back by offering an unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, motivations, and emotions. There's so much that I have to tackle in this new year. Therapy is a great way to help me focus and to keep me from feeling overwhelmed. Now, what I love about BetterHelp is they have quality therapists. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the US. Now, BetterHelp wants to make sure you have a great therapist. So they do the initial matchmaking work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. You fill out a quick questionnaire, helps you identify your needs and preferences, and they will do the rest. They typically get it right the first time, but if you're not happy with your match for any reason, you can switch to a different therapist at any time. Are you ready to get help? I hope so. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's better, HELP.com/ratchet. Let's see, what else is going on in the world? I saw that Usha Vance, very brown, Indian woman, second lady, vice president's wife, who has 3 of his children. He refers to them as her children. I think she's married to a white supremacist. She is a white supremacist. I don't think you can be married to a white supremacist without actually being one, despite her and her 3 children being brown. That is the point, but there's more. She has just announced that she is pregnant with their fourth child, and I was like, "Hey, Usha girl, hey, Usha girl, you crazy and you self-hating, but you smart." She likely, and not even likely, she saw the same play that everybody else saw with the little grieving widow with her hands all up in her husband's hair. She saw where that storyline was going. And I say storyline because all this shit is scripted. She saw where that was going. That, like, oh, this little heifer gonna try to take my man gonna try to leave me and be with her, and they're gonna be like the new first couple and X my little brown ass out. So she has a scenario here where she is now pregnant with their fourth baby. He can't leave her while she's pregnant. He can't divorce her. He can't go off and be wherever. He looks like a horrible husband. Because even though she's like the brown wife and, he's catering to white supremacists, you can't be out here telling everybody pro baby, pro life, pro family, and then leave your pregnant wife, even if she's brown, and your kids. You can't do that to the mother of your children. Like, that looks really bad. So he's stuck with her for at least, I would say, 3 to 4 years until the baby stops looking like a baby. I hope that's the brownest baby the world has ever seen. I hope that I hope JD Vance, because the kids, they don't pass for white. He seems to think his children will. He said some things over the years that I think he thinks his children are lighter than what they are. And I was like, no, your children look of color. Like, they're not a dark color, but they look of color. Like, they're not your wife's complexion, but they are of color children. They're not white. They're like the color of Stephen Miller's wife, because she ain't white either. But that's another story for another day. Usha, she and her children, their brownness in a country that hates brown people and immigrants, which I believe she and her parents all are, in a country that is in the midst of ethnic cleansing. Let's call it what it is, trying to get rid of all the brown people. She has secured her proximity to a white protector, a powerful white protector that she believes is most likely to keep herself, her children, and her family safe. It's cunning. It's crazy. Again, it's self hating, but I see what she's trying to do. We need to talk about Minnesota because they still going crazy. Last I heard, Tim Walz had called in the National Guard. I haven't heard the fallout from that yet. Don Lemon, I don't know. Don Lemon is being blamed for a protest that he covered as a journalist. There was a group, they decided to go protest at a church because they found out that the pastor is a director at ICE. Okay. Don gets word that these folks are going to protest, a tip, if you will. And as a journalist, he follows the tip and he goes to cover the story. Don Lemon goes into the church with the protesters and he live streams the whole protest. He also starts asking people questions about their thoughts on the protest, their thoughts on MAGA, their thoughts on ICE, their thoughts on what's going on in Minnesota with ICE terrorizing the city, what they think about the pastor being a director for ICE, i.e., he behaved like a journalist. This is no different than a journalist going to cover anything. So whether it's going to cover like the RNC, whether it's going to cover in a war zone, whether it's going to cover the site of a car accident, a high school football game, you get a tip, especially a good tip, that something is going on that's unusual, like going to protest in a church, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna follow that. Like, they're calling it Don Lemon's protest. There's the Department of Justice is threatening to, let me read this. It's like hit Don Lemon with some KKK charge. And I was like, what? Hold on. I'm reading this from People magazine. It says Don Lemon responds after being put on notice by Trump DOJ following Minneapolis church protest. It says Sunday, January 18th. Lemon, the independent journalist, shared video footage from City's church in Minneapolis, during which demonstrators interrupted a service in protest of David Easterwood, a pastor and local Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agent. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon posted to X. Are we tweeting? Official, oh my God, this country. He tweeted, quote, "A house of worship is not a public forum for your protest. It is a space protected from exactly such acts by federal criminal and civil laws. Nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo journalism." Look, you may not like Don Lemon. Questioning whether he's a journalist isn't a question. Be for real, for real. Nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo journalism of disrupting a prayer service, you are on notice. What does that even mean? Same assistant AG, he appeared on the Benny Johnson show. Is that a podcast? She threatened to invoke multiple different acts to prosecute Lemon and other protesters. Okay, Lemon and protesters, because he wasn't a protester, he's a journalist. He was just there covering the story, not protesting, which you can see on the video. They want to use the FACE Act against him. It protects against attacks or intimidation against people lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise their First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. You also know that same First Amendment protects Dawn as media too, right? And then they also want to use the Ku Klux Klan Act, also known as the Enforcement Act of 1871. They want to use the KKK Act to prosecute a black man. America. It says this act makes it a crime to deny any group or individual of, quote, any of the rights, privileges, or immunities or protection named in the Constitution. Where my good NAACP lawyers at? This can't be used for like the persecution of black people. I mean, like, as it was originally intended in 1871. Since it exists and they want to bring it up for Dawn, we can't bring this up for all the violations against, I mean, black people, brown people, any of that. Where my good NAACP, ACLU folks at? Talk to me. Tell me, is that possible? It also says the act, notably created post Civil War given the time, it was to quell acts by the infamously violent hate group, and the president has broad authority to enforce it, including deploying federal troops, oh God, and suspending habeas corpus. They want to take us into civil war so damn bad. It says it makes it illegal to terrorize and violate the civil rights of citizens. Every black person before 19, every black person, not even before 19, every black person today, yesterday, tomorrow too. This doesn't apply to us? How does it not? It says whenever people conspire, Don Lemon did not conspire. The Klan Act can be used. So black people can't prosecute like when we talk about, oh, it's systemic racism. Inherently, doesn't the systemicness of it all kind of make it a conspiracy? We're the lawyers. Talk to me. All I got is Law and Order in my background. I took the LSAT. Oh. It says everyone in the protest community needs to know that the fullest force of the federal government is going to come down and prevent this from happening and put people away for a long time. Did the Constitution stop allowing us the right to protest? I thought that was constitutional too. Were there amendments that I'm not aware of? I didn't leave the country this weekend. I went to New Orleans and Houston. Did something happen while I was gone? Oh. Okay. Lemon responded to the legal warning in a statement of all places to Fox News Digital. He says, quote, it's notable that I've been cast as the face of a protest I was covering as a journalist, especially since I wasn't the only reporter there. That framing is telling. What's even more telling is the barrage of violent threats, along with homophobic, we'll talk about that in a second, Nicki Minaj, that means you, and racist slurs directed at me online by MAGA supporters and amplified by parts of the right-wing press. He continues, if this much time and energy is going to be spent manufacturing outrage, it would be far better used investigating the tragic death of Renee Nicole Good, the very issue that brought people into the streets in the first place. I stand by my reporting. Couple things. It's not lost on me that earlier this year, and we're only like 3 weeks into the year, there was a white pastor who ran up in New Birth. I saw somebody talk about this online and I was like, wait, what? And then I went and looked it up on YouTube. There's a 10-minute video. A white pastor and his wife ran up into New Birth, I guess maybe like a week ago, Sunday service, and started harassing parishioners in the lobby, screaming about, hold up, I took notes. He talked about wickedness and whorishness. That's about the dress. So sometime after Dressgate, racism, race baiting, trash doctrine, high mindedness, the pedophile co founder of the New Birth Church, that'd be Eddie Long. And then he called Jamal Bryant, quote, a wicked dog. He said Dr. Carey was a Jezebel. And then he told folks to repent. And if they didn't, they were going to burn in hell the hot lake of fire. And he said, in conclusion, that Jamal Bryant was vile in the sight of God. He went up in the lobby of the church. I don't know who was filming. I assume somebody with him. It took security like a good 3 minutes to get to him. Which, look, I understand that wasn't what y'all were expecting on a Sunday. Y'all thought it was going to be a regular day. I get it. But also, I'm just like, hey, when white folks start running up in black churches, I mean, back up. One, I heard nothing about this pastor. I heard nothing about KKK laws. I heard nothing about prosecution. I heard nothing about anything about this pastor. I feel like this story was completely swept under the rug. The only place I could find it was like on YouTube and like random tweets. That pastor was actually disrupting a church service. He wasn't covering it as a journalist like Don Lemon. I've heard nothing about him being prosecuted. Additionally, this is where I was going before. When white folks run up in black churches, I get very nervous because of history. Add this first. I don't like the idea of folks running up in churches. I don't like the idea of this white man running up in New Birth. I get why the black folks did it in Minnesota. I'm not entirely mad at it, but also I don't like the precedent of folks doing it. Even though this is something white folks have done, actually back up. White folks have done far worse when it comes to black churches. I'm thinking of the church that was bombed and the four little girls that died during the civil rights movement. I'm thinking of all the black churches that have been burned by various white groups. I'm thinking of Dylan Roof showing up for prayer service, being prayed for, praying with people, and then getting up and like spraying them, killing a bunch of folks. Church doors, like when I used to travel all over the place, even in the States, right? I like churches. People put a lot of money into churches. The churches have really good architecture. I like taking pictures of pretty things. So I would visit a lot of churches. Until before Dylan Roof, you could walk up to most churches in the United States and just open the door and walk in and be welcomed. I could come in with my cameras, I could sit down and pray. It was never an issue. The church doors were open. Now they're locked because of this mofo, because he went and sprayed up a church. I'm glad that the worst that happened at New Birth was someone ranting and raving, and when security showed up, they left willingly. Still loud as fuck, but left. I won't sit here and try to justify the black folks running up in the church in St. Paul. What Chris Rock say? I don't condone it, but I understand. Being a minister and working for ICE is hypocritical. You are not practicing the word of God. Unless, they've edited that too. Like, isn't there like a love your neighbor part? You know what? Let's just actually read. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself. Leviticus 19:33-34. How, as a pastor, and plenty of people do it, I just want to point out the hypocrisy of it. How, as a pastor, are you out here terrorizing not just immigrants, but especially immigrants, but also everybody else too? And then you preach allegedly from the Bible or the teachings of the Bible. Like, it's incompatible. It's hypocritical. It makes no sense. So in the same way that this pastor ran up in Jamal Bryant's church and he was this like, you're basically idiots. You're defying the word of God. Repent. You're all going to hell. I'm not entirely mad, although I don't condone it. I'm not entirely mad at these black folks running up in this Minnesota church. The only reason I take issue with it, last year, the pastor at Alfred Street, Howard John Wesley, I talked about this in a previous episode, went viral because of some of his commentary on the state of America, dear leader, all of those things. The church ascribes to, I call it common sense. Some folks would call it Black liberation theology. And the Sunday after that sermon, protesters were supposed to show up at the church. And so the church hired security. Nothing came of it. But I was livid at the idea of folks protesting outside the church, protesting the pastor, calling him racist, calling him names. I'm not the deepest Christian. I got some ways though. I think I'm more Christian than a lot of people realize. I just curse a lot and don't really, I'm a little feisty for a woman. People think I'm not Christian, but that's not the point. I understand the reverence and sacredness of church. Somebody running up in my house of the Lord. And so I understand how other folks can feel the way and feel deeply offended or even attacked, even if there's no physical attack. Like I get it. I just don't have it in me to denounce it. Does that on Instagram pissed me off so bad? And she told me my discernment was off. And she said the last couple of things that you posted, like your discernment is off. I in support of Drewski and his skit mocking aspects of the black church, particularly mega pastors who are flashy and showy and basically just do too damn much. And she took issue with that. I'm not really sure what else she took issue with, but she wrote it in the comments of the Drewski post. I don't think that I've changed. I think my thought process is consistent. I don't know. I'm not changing it. I mean, you can be unhappy with it if you don't like it. And that's fine. I don't need you to agree with me. I do need you to respect me. Like I am respectful, I think, most of the time to most people, at least the people watching. Don Lemon is also, I can't even say Don Lemon is defending himself. That's the best way to put it. So after Don Lemon goes into the church to cover it as a journalist, Nicki Minaj, who is MAGA's new attack dog, puppet, dancing coon, whatever you want to call it, decides to attack Don Lemon and calls him a cocksucker. Madam, your stage name is Minaj. You spent your entire career bending over your giant ass and sexualizing yourself. I, Me, you, and Am can Minaj Friday. Like, he sucks cock, you lick clits. Like, and suck cocks. Like, what? She said it. Don Lemon responded to her. Mhm. Her complete post was we the cock part. She called Don Lemon disgusting. She says, "How dare you?" She says, "I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up." Apparently, protesting in a church, bad. Pedophilia, sexual offender, not bad. Don Lemon responded to Nicki Minaj. He says, quote, "I usually don't respond to this stuff, but let me just say this." He says, "Nicki Minaj, stop talking about shit which you know nothing about." Pause. Free Don Lemon is the best Don Lemon. I thought Drunk Don Lemon for New Year's Eve was the best Don Lemon. Free Don Lemon on a regular basis, light years, and I love Drunk Don Lemon, light years above Drunk Don Lemon. Did you see him on New Year's Eve? He was so drunk he had the microphone turned upside down. I was like, never change, Don. Never change. I love Don Lemon. So he continues, he says, "Stop talking about shit which you know nothing about. This is out of your depth, by the way. And you are a homophobic bigot." She doesn't understand politics. She doesn't understand journalism. And I'm not surprised that she is weighing in on something that is beyond her capacity. Don wasn't done. He continued. He says, "Nicki Minaj is a pick me. She will do anything that is expedient for her politically. And again, she's ignorant. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's always weighing in on things that she doesn't know about. Nicki Minaj should just sit the fuck down." People are tired. You can tell it. It's just like the regular conversations that people have. People are fucking tired. The Canadian Prime Minister, who basically went to was it Davos and was like, the World Economic Forum. In Switzerland, they're all the big leaders are over there right now. He made a speech yesterday that could easily be summarized as like "fuck America." And I was like, oh God. He has the moral high ground and the logical high ground. It's bad. It's so bad. Nicki responded to Dawn, stupid shit. She's a grown ass woman. She called him a lemon head. And I was like, are we in third grade? Shit flows downstream. Like, dear leader is so childish and so petty and so hateful and so vindictive. The citizens of the country, the citizens of the world, even, are all starting to act like assholes because of him. You try to start talking to people with like logic and basic social decorum, and they all are just like raging lunaticy. And so you have to like meet them where they are in order to just hold a basic conversation or in order to protect yourself from their crazy. So now everyone's just fucking nutso all the fucking time. It's so. Also, Nicki Minaj has like her own issues. So today I'm recording on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, a judge will determine whether or not to force the sale of Nicki Minaj's house. There's a judgment just over 500,000, and it stems from a lawsuit by a security guard who claims Nicki's husband assaulted him at a 2019 concert and resulting in a broken jaw. And they didn't respond to the lawsuit. They're meant for 500,000 to cover medical expenses and damages. Nicki Minaj and her husband have not paid it. And so now a judge is debating whether to force the sale in order for Nicki Minaj and her husband to pay this man. Apparently, the property is $20 million and it will be auctioned to satisfy the $500,000 debt, with the remaining equity returned to Nicki Minaj after paying off the mortgage and other fees. Man, where's your money? Where's your money? Because you owe this man $500,000. And if you don't pay him, a judge could force the sale of your home. Like, you would have to give up your home in order to pay this man. I know I just said the same thing twice, but I'm just trying to re-emphasize how fucking crazy that sounds. Why won't you pay him? Better, can you pay him? And if you cannot pay him, where is your money? Like, you got this $20 million house. I think she originally bought it for 13.3. That's what they said, pay off the mortgage, so 13.3. Birdman did an interview last year and he said he personally has paid Nicki Minaj after his cut. He's personally paid Nicki Minaj between $300 and $1 million. The IRS takes half of it. You got to pay managers, lawyers. Okay, you should still have. I don't want to count the lady coins. I don't know what all her expenses. I don't know who all she's taking care of. But she should have $500,000 to pay this man. And even if you don't look at it as paying this man, to keep your house from being sold and auctioned off. Like, do she have the money? People brought that up when she was palling around with Erica Kirk, and they were like, she got paid for those appearances and blah blah blah. And people said like Nicki Minaj, like she needs the money. And I was like, there's no way possible Nicki Minaj could need the money. This is even before I heard about the Birdman thing, that between the 300 and 400 million. Pause. Do you know how much money moved through Birdman's hands? Where just off top. Like, I could be like, you know what, my sister, last time we went out to eat, like I covered her tab. It's like $20, $30. Like, it's a number. It's so irrelevant. I don't really think about it. 300 to $400 million. It's a difference of $100 million. That amount of money is so irrelevant to him that he's like, I'm not really sure. If I owed somebody $300,000, I would be very clear. Like, oh, it's 300. It's not, it's not 350. It's not 310. Like, even if I owe somebody $3,000, the same thing. Like, I owe you 3,000. I don't owe you 4,000. 3,000. I get that to you. Like 300 to 400 million. Like one of those, somewhere in that range. Like, what? You're a wealthy man. Nikki, though, are you still wealthy? Because anybody who had the money to pay, you don't want to pay $500,000, of course, especially if you don't think you did something. But also, why didn't you respond to this lawsuit? But okay, you don't want to pay the money, but now it's come to shove. Why wouldn't you pay before this judge makes a decision on whether or not to auction off your home. I understand GP, like I shouldn't have to pay him because blah, blah, blah. But now it's come down to the wire and your home is at risk and you still won't pay? That's not GP. That's I don't have the money. That's crazy. But she crazy. Is this last on our list to talk about? This is about Dear and that damn Nobel Prize. That's our for the day. Dear Leader has long wanted the Nobel Prize, seemingly for no other reason than Obama has one, and like the black guy has something he doesn't have, and so like it's sending him over the edge. His jealousy, his inferiority complex, his whatever is going on rent free in his head with Obama is the cause of so much of the chaos that we're living with. Desperately wanted the Nobel Prize. There was no possible way for him to get it. I believe I read this when he first started ranting about it, like earlier this year or last year. The period for people to be considered, nominees, whomever, to be considered for the Nobel Prize ended before Dear Leader returned to office last January. Like it was impossible. Like he didn't meet the deadline. Still, he wanted this Nobel Prize. But even if you had made the deadline, I ask again, Nobel Peace Prize for what? You're terrorizing your citizens. You're fucking with the economy worldwide. You're literally kidnapping people in your own country, American citizens, immigrants, and shipping them off to nations they're not even from. You just ran up in Venezuela and stole the president and his wife. You bombed Nigeria. We're still not clear on why you did that. You're talking about invading Greenland. And before then, you were talking about invading Canada. You're talking about invading Cuba. This war, you were like, oh, I brokered peace between Ukraine and Russia and blah, blah, blah. They still fighting. Between Palestine and Israel, they still going. You're like, I've ended 8 wars. What 8 wars? What 8 wars? But you want the Nobel Peace Prize while you're causing chaos everywhere you go. But you want the Nobel Peace Prize. They didn't give it to him. They gave it to Machado, Maria Machado. They gave it to her, Venezuelan. Get the full recap on this because I was like, what is this lady's backstory that she's just crazy enough that she just gave up her Nobel Peace Prize? Venezuelan against the dictator, the one that Trump just stole. She wanted to run against him in the last election. They wouldn't allow her to run, variety of reasons. So she supported someone else who ran against the dictator. That person, from what I read, technically won the election, had the votes, actually won. The dictator was like, no, you didn't. I won. I'm going to stay in office. She has been tirelessly working to overthrow this dictator and, according to everything I read, liberate the Venezuelan people from the tyranny of this man, the kidnapped man. It's the very abbreviated version. This is why she won the Nobel Peace Prize. When Trump goes and steals the dictator and his wife, she thought she would be appointed to office for whatever reason. Folks floated the idea. Dear Leader addressed it directly and was like, she's a nice lady and all. She doesn't have the respect of the people. There's no way in hell I'm making her the president. Making her the president of a sovereign nation. Someone else, the vice president, the same regime. Trump stole the man, but left like all his like number twos, number threes, the regime. Left them people in power. So you took the leader, but you left the regime. She thinks that he's going to install her, or she wants to be installed. He said, no, you don't have the respect of the people, not going to happen. So she's giving him her Nobel Peace Prize as like a gift in order to convince him to install her as the leader of Venezuela. Whatever her agenda was for Venezuela, if it was, noble enough, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She a Nobel Peace Prize, that she was doing good work on behalf of the people. She can't continue that work if Trump installs her. She will be expected to do his bit. The man that she gave her Nobel Peace Prize to is literally robbing her country. Like, he already stole the dictator and his wife. He's also currently taking Venezuela oil and selling it off to whoever and using the money in his own private account, allegedly somewhere in Qatar. The money generated by the Venezuelan oil, the sales of Venezuelan oil, should be going to the Venezuelan people. He's taking your shit and using it's so fucking obvious. He's stealing your shit and you gave him your Nobel Peace Prize. Lady, he's not gonna fucking install you. And if he did, he's not going to let you help your people in the way that you want to. You are just going to be the figurehead while he continues to rob you. And if you don't go along with the shit that he does, he gonna steal and kidnap your ass too. It's like an abusive relationship. You beat the chick before me, but you're not gonna beat me because I'm different. I gave you the Nobel Peace Prize, so you're gonna treat me better than how you treated the person before me. No, you're not. You're different. He gonna abuse you just like he abuses everyone else because he's an abusing abuser who abuses. Ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. She went and gave that man a Nobel Peace Prize, and he gave her some sort of it was a little red bag with his signature on it, like a little department store bag. When you go to like the good stores, like when you go to not to Bloomingdale's, but like when you go to like Neiman Marcus, they give you like the sturdy bag. That's what he gave her in exchange for the Nobel Peace Prize. To which the federal government was like, hey, like like as the leader of the up to a certain amount because like you want to look like you're compromised by like so this actually can't be your gift. It has to be like the American people's gift, and we have to put it in a safe space. And Trump was like, no, which y'all knew he was going. I'm so sick of this man. I'm so sick of this man. So I want to read you this tidbit too. They texting like high school girls and then screenshotting everything and putting it on the internet. It's the Prime Minister of Norway. Norway is okay. Like the Oscars are American. It's not necessarily an American. It's not necessarily. It's not an American government institution. It's just that is based in America. This is how the Nobel Peace Prize works in terms of Norway. It's not a government thing. It's a thing, institution, organization based out of Norway. Important. So, dear leader writes to the Prime Minister of Norway, and he says, and again, like they're leaking these text messages like jilted lovers. He says, Dear Jonas, that's the Prime Minister's name. He says, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, plus, tell me one war. Tell me one war you stopped. One. Dear leader continues, he says, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant. But I can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect the land from Russia or China. And why do they have a quote, right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. He says, I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. Have you? And now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. Is this mofo invading Greenland because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize? Like, you didn't give him a prize for peace, which he wasn't being peaceful anyway. And so now he's trying to say that, like, you didn't acknowledge me for being peaceful, despite me not being peaceful. But now I'm gonna act a whole fool because basically I didn't get a trophy. It's abuser logic. Anyone who's ever been in an abusive relationship, physical, emotional, mental, whatever, this is abusive. This is it's abuser logic. And this man is president of the United States. Um, the Canadian Prime Minister, he got up in front of everybody and he said, "Hey, hey, hey." Basically, fuck the US. I said this earlier in the podcast. I just want to read you, like, I think one of the best quotes. He said, quote, "You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination." And I was like, why does this sound so familiar? It's because it's the same logic that Malcolm X had about Black people integrating during the civil rights movement. He was actually very against it. Mark Carney, the Canadian PM, he started the speech leading up to that quote. Basically, he didn't call out the US directly, but he was talking about us. Because it's shade. It's junior high. It's like housewife shade nonstop with all of these world leaders right now. Which is why I'm able to talk about it so effortlessly on a podcast called Ratchet and Respectable, because it's almost plotted out like a TV show. It's a quote and unquote unscripted TV show, which is also heavily scripted, like what's going on with Angel in the Four Seasons and that house with no running water. I was like, producers did all that shit, and that poor girl, who I've known for years, is getting dragged for it. Like, I don't watch the show, but that stuff is like trickled over into my timeline. I don't watch the show to have thoughts. I know enough about what's going on behind the scenes to have thoughts. Many people, that's it's all scripted. It's all scripted. Every last part of it. That girl didn't book that house with no water. And then people didn't book the Four Seasons either. It's all the producers. When you go on work trips, do you pay for the work trip? Do you pay for your own hotel or does your company pay for it? I have so much more to say. I was on the phone with 2 hours with a friend last night talking about it. We're moving on because we're not talking about the housewives. We're talking about the prime ministers and presidents, world leaders going back and forth with one another. It dawned on me the other day on the last episode of the podcast. I think I said something like white women are being treated the way black people have always been treated in America. Like, their whiteness isn't taking them far anymore. They're being treated the way the police often treat black men and women. And it's just it's a disruption of the social order. It dawned on me last night reading Mark Carney's speech that America is treating the rest of the world, not just white women, it's treating the rest of the world the way it's always treated black people. Like, these whimsical, like, the tariff is 10%, the tariff is 50%, like minor infractions. You don't do what I say, then I rain holy hell down upon you. Like, the rules for thee, but not for me. Just the bullying, really. It's what America's always done to black people, and now they're doing it on a wider scale, and people don't seemingly know how to react. I would suggest to them, because black people are still not moving, I would suggest to them that they go read like civil rights movement strategies, like the King book that I read from last year, strategies through and through about the thought process of the leaders of the civil rights movement. There are a few of them that are still alive. You should probably go talk to them and get their um, historical and institutional knowledge to see how y'all can, like, fight back against this. Like, the tools are there. You're gonna have to pay them, one, um, and you're also gonna have to, like, let them lead you. That's always been the thing. It's like you want black people to do the labor, but you don't want to be led by black people. We're not doing that no more. We never had to get into any of this, by the way. You could have just elected the happy black lady. We could be nestling comfortably in our beds every night with no drama, without the world turning its back on us, and not about to, the world has turned its back on us. Like any day now, it's looking like World War III is about to pop off. And dear leader, it's like he's doing all this chaotic shit and looks like he's gonna die any day now. Like he looks like he's on his last legs. We're being held hostage by a third of the nation. Hillary Clinton calling them deplorables was the understatement of all time. Just leave it at that. We're being held hostage by people who can't think right. A man who seemingly has dementia, and his puppet strings are being pulled by a Jewish neo-Nazi. Uh, uh, I don't even know what JD Vance's real philosophy was, because he's actually the first person publicly, politician, to call Trump a Nazi, and now he's like his second-hand henchman supporting white supremacy while having 3.5 brown children and a brown wife. Like, none of this shit makes sense. And yet, and yet, here we are. Usually, like when I sign off a podcast, I'm like, okay, bye, take care of yourselves, like stay safe, like be good. We'll talk next week. Like, no, really, like take care of yourself. Like, stay safe. I hope you're good. I hope I see you again next week. Cause like that's kind of where we are right now. Not everything, what we got. Talk soon. Bye. That wasn't a that was a that was a goodbye, not like a Hail Hitler. That's fucking nuts.